While I was working on the Smart House, I noticed there were a few errors in the code and a few things I needed to change. So I thought it would be easiest if I made a video to show you the bits of code which I've now got, which do work. So the first thing to notice is up at Tools. I've had to change the board from Arduino and Arduino Uno. And in fact, in the instruction manual, at one point it also says Arduino Nano. I've had to download a new board, the ESP32, which is the version of Smart House that I have. So I had all kinds of trouble until I changed this. The rest of this was then automatically given to me. The port, obviously, I had to pick which port I was using, and I think I did have to change the programmer as well, but as you can see, there's only really one option. Now, the first thing to notice when you click upload is that you'll get quite a bit more code down here, quite a bit more text down here than what you're used to seeing. And it takes a very long time for even simple bits of code to upload. So if you find that as well, don't be surprised. So I'll just open this one up so you can see what I mean. It's got quite a bit more than what we would normally see from Arduino, and then it sits on here with the hard resetting via the RTS pin, which I thought was an error. Don't be fooled by the fact this is in red. It's not an error, and in fact, if you could see the LED right now, it's happily blinking away. So this code will let you see that it is in fact talking to the ESP32 board, and it is in fact blinking the LED. So I'll just scroll through all of the other bits of code so that if you have any errors in yours that you find, you can have a look at what was working for me. This one makes the LED come on slowly and then slowly go back down in brightness as well. This one reads in the two buttons, button 1 and button 2. Be careful with the serial baud speed because some of these codes have changed between this one and another value, so just be very careful about what value it's expecting. This bit of code here turns the LED on and off based off whether you've pressed the button or not. I believe this might have been one of the codes where one of these brackets at the end was left off, which is quite a common problem I found in these codes, which I was a bit disappointed about. I didn't actually try the pyroelectric, these two, and the reason for that is because I didn't want to get a lighter near a big wooden house. So I didn't try 3.1 or 3.2. Here's the one for buzzer. This one plays Happy Birthday. The different sounds are coded out down here. What I would say as well with these libraries is you also have to install the libraries, but there is a good explanation of how to do that in the user manual, so I won't explain it now. Now, this 4.2 music, this is the first file that I could never get to work. I'm assuming that there's some code that would represent all of these different songs saved somewhere, but I could never manage to get into it. So I'll show you the code. Technically, I think it did load, but it never played any songs. So I'm not sure about this one. Onto the servo. So this is for the rotating door, which is on panel K, just underneath the LCD screen. Well, I couldn't get this to work at first, and I was slightly confused because up here it's talking about servo 16, and here it says pin 13. The pin 13 is correct, so don't worry about that. What I will say, there's a space here, so I think they probably had an extra bracket. What I will say is that I haven't found in my experience anyway that this servo goes from 0 to 180, more like 0 to 90. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But I certainly didn't see it going 180 degrees. Moving on then to the auto window. Here's the code for that. This is the window that's on panel F. This caused me all sorts of trouble, multiple days of fighting. And in the end, what I realized was that when you put in the window with those two gear, well, it's actually one. There's one circle gear and one kind of linear gear. The instruction manual shows that the window should be shut at the beginning. And if you do that, what's happening with the servo is it's actually pushing into the panel of the house right away. It's trying to shut the window even more. So don't do that. Ignore the user guide when it shows you that the window should be shut to begin with. Make sure that the window is open to begin with. Otherwise, it can't go anywhere. So for 6.1 and 6.2, it's talking about a light strip. I don't think that actually came in this kit. So I spent a long time trying to get this to work with this NeoPixel. I never got it to work. But in fact, if you look at any of these kind of Adafruit trinkets that it's talking about, or in fact, the NeoPixel strip object, it seems to be like a ribbon with different colors. It didn't even come in this kit, so I'm not really surprised that it hasn't worked. But we do have that 4 LED with the different colors that's on panel H, and I had thought maybe that this tied in with that, but so far I've had absolutely no luck getting those 4 LEDs to come on. So there's the code. I haven't changed any of the code really for 6.1 or 6.2 because I don't think we have that in this kit. 7.1 is the fan. I think this one might have been missing or had an extra bracket at the end. Something to be aware of. In 7.2, the fan doesn't automatically turn on and speed up, slow down. Then it's controlled by some buttons, those same buttons that were on panel K. Again, if you're not sure whether the buttons are on or off, you can always try opening the serial communicator and seeing what it's showing, the serial monitor, sorry. The LCD. With this one, the thing to tell you about is there's this warning that the library is working on some old architecture and might not work. And in fact, my LCD didn't work for quite a long time, and I went searching for a very, very long time trying to find the new library, only to realize that it was actually a user error, and I had hooked up the LCD with all of the leads backwards. So I think I'd said that the ground was the signal and the signal was the ground or something like that. So it was fair enough that it wasn't working. It was my fault. But I spent a very, very long time. But if you do get this warning about how the library is old, mine still works fine even on the old library. So maybe it's not such a problem after all. 8.2 is about the gas. I didn't try that because, again, I'm not going to put a lighter next to the wooden box. Here's the code for the humidity and temperature sensor. I don't think I changed anything on this, although again, beware, because it's got the LCD in it, it'll warn you about the library, but again, I didn't have any trouble with that. The RFID, again, because it's got the LCD, it'll give you a warning. But I didn't have any trouble with this. So here's the RFID code. I'm just going to run it so you can see something that's going to become important in a minute. Once again, it takes quite a long time to compile. It's warning us about the library for the LCD potentially being incompatible and not running anymore, but don't worry about that one. It comes up with various other warnings for us, but at the end of the day, it does load. Tells us this hard resetting via the RTS pin again. And I'll show you this bit of the code. Most of this code I didn't need to change, but there were some bits that I did. First off, I'll highlight this to you. So that's the baud rate we're going to be looking at. And this is the part that I had to change, which was the password. When you download this code from online, there'll be a password in there, but it's almost certainly not going to be the password attached to the white card or the blue key that you've gotten in your particular kit. Each one of them seems to have its own number. And so if you want it to work, the first thing you need to do is figure out what your numbers are, what your password is. And the way I did that for mine is I went to Tools and then Serial Monitor, opened the Serial Monitor, made sure the baud rate was right. Half the time I had a slightly different baud rate. And it will sit here until you put the little blue key or the white card in front of your RFID. So if I do that, you can see I've just put the blue key in front of it, and it's told me what the password is for that particular card. And it's told me it was opened because that's the one that I told it to open for. If you wanted to know what the white card is, you can just wave the white card in front of it, and you can see that it's then given you the password for the white card as well. And it doesn't say open because that's not the password it's looking for. But I went ahead and I wrote it in here and I commented it out. So if I ever wanted to know what the other one was, I had them both. And here's the rest of the code. Okay, moving on. To make the door open and close, go back up to the top. So on this one, you can use buttons 1 and 2 in order to put in a password, which you can change if you want. I've left the generic password, which was in the file already. The code starts with an empty password, and then you input the password. The problem that I had at first is I thought that, for example, button 1 may give us the long one, and the dot would be button 2. Not the case. If you read through the code, you'll see that's not the case. This is how long you're pushing the first button. So you push the first button for a while. I took that to mean a few seconds. Then you have a quick push, and then you have a long push, and then you have to press the second button. And I think the second button was for a long time, possibly. Say down here. And once it does that, it opens the door. Actually, it's a short one for button 2 to get it to input the code. It'll open the door, and then if you press button 2 for a long time, it will close the door and give you a chance to put in the password again. Again, you can change the password to be whatever it is that you want it to be, but there's the code for that one. And the last ones are about the Wi-Fi and connecting up with your phone. I haven't finished those yet. I am struggling to get it to connect to my Wi-Fi, so if I can get that to work, that will be on a separate video. But I just wanted to show you the codes that I had for those first examples of getting all the other things to work individually. In particular, showing you the code itself, because there were some errors in the code and the bit that you downloaded. So hopefully you found that useful. If you do have any questions, do try to get in touch, and I will do my best to help. Thanks. Bye.